Welcome back to the channel, y'all. So, thought I'd go over the story, saga that is us buying this Fiero. Yeah, it's a doozy. Trust me. If you interested in that, keep watching. If not, this video is just storytelling, honestly. So if you don't want to watch it, you don't worry. Yeah, I'm not offended. But for those of you that do, stay tuned because it's a doozy. Okay, so glad you decided to accept this mission. About back in September 2023, it's now March 2024, but back in September we were looking hard at getting one of these, and not necessarily in yellow, but there were some things I wanted. I wanted an 88 because it has the better suspension and brakes, and the factory motors are a little bit better. Some other little things. It's basically the best year the last year is. So wanted an 88. One, it had to be a 5-speed, and there were some other criteria I had, but I wanted to do it right and get a good one while this time. So I was looking, like I said, there was a red one that in Maryland that was for sale earlier in 2023, but by the time we had the money together, it had been sold. But my Facebook marketplace was already set to the Northeast region, and saw this car for sale in New Jersey. I don't know what you're thinking. And for me, I was real hesitant because northeastern cars, northern cars, we don't get rust really down here in Arkansas. So any bit of rust is, like in the north, they're like, oh, just a little bit. Well, down here, and a little bit is a lot. That, like any rust is bad here. So I was real hesitant, but the guy, his name's Jerry, spoke with him, and he was real short and to the point at first, but I explained the story to him of my history with Fieros, and he quickly opened up to me and was showing me everything I wanted to see. He didn't even realize it was turbocharged. I kind of figured it had been based on an engine picture I saw. It looked like a turbo, but only half of it, and that's exactly what it is. It's just that exhaust housing of a turbo. But anyway, long story short, back to the story of us going to get it. So I made the arrangements. He didn't believe we were actually coming, I don't think. He thought we were just bullshitting. We were flying up to Philadelphia. By the way, Philadelphia's the worst airport I've ever been to in my life. I thought Baltimore, BWI was bad. No, Philly's got that beat. But we flew through Philly because it was like half the price, and picked up a rental car that night, which we flew through Charlotte, so you got delayed like you always do in Charlotte. So it was like midnight by the time we got to our hotel in Pennsylvania, which but the next morning we drove out, met the guy. He's really cool. He had an old Fiat, the one with the Ferrari motor, Dino, an old like 50s Chevy. You know, he had a lot of old cars, and it was a nice part of New Jersey. I was actually shocked. It's not what anybody would think of when they think of New Jersey. But he had this up, in his shop, and it had been sitting for years. He'd only put, I think he bought it in 2008 and only put 2,000 miles on it. We put way more on it since then. But he didn't know a whole lot about the cars. He did, however, have a folder this thick of records. I know every owner since the new ones, since it's for original owner's name. I've got receipts for days. It was real, like, it was kind of one of those, you're like, wow, knowing the history of the car. It's originally like in Ohio, a Cincinnati area car. It actually gone back and forth between owners, between Cincinnati area and New Jersey. It had gone back and forth multiple times between the I think 5 other owners. But I found that out after we got home with it. Like I said, it was original. At some point, someone had put a turbo kit on it. It was the design one's the most common one, and that's what that is on there. And rebuilt the motor bored it out and done some other stuff at some point. I think in the 90s. But back to the story. So the car hadn't really driven, and this is my own fault. I was like, I'm just driving home. I've driven Fieros across country many a times. Well, this car had been sitting too long, and we're driving it because we had to drive to Allentown, Pennsylvania to drop off our rental car, and she was gonna, we were gonna get on the road. Well, it broke down on me about after 22 miles of driving it, and sat for 10 minutes and started right up. Drove it in, picked her up from the airport, after dropping the rental off. We go eat, we get some, what we were hoping to do was get some CDs, but that's another sidebar. The radio that was in it, we couldn't get to turn on. So we were basically, we each had our earbuds in, driving down the road, jamming. The air also wasn't blowing very hard. That's another point. Like the fan, like you couldn't feel any airflow. So we're driving, and about every 22 miles, it would like sputter and die, and on the highway. So it took us about 2.5 hours to make it to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, because we'd have to stop every 22 miles and for 10-15 minutes to let it cool off. Stopped by an AutoZone. We knew it was either the coil or ignition control module. Turned out to be the ignition control module. Swapped it out in the AutoZone parking lot. Got back on the road, and we're rolling. Made it through Maryland. The little bit that the one town we had to go through in Maryland. We're in West Virginia, and we stopped for dinner, had some oysters and everything in this little small town. Blah blah blah. We're about 160 miles from Roanoke, Virginia, and all of a sudden, we hear bam, and then the car started. The temperature gauge immediately just started climbing, and so pulled over, and this is like at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night on a Saturday night. The fan belt had snapped not because of the fan belt, but because the alternator had locked up. I didn't know it had locked up, but I just figured the belt was old. We happened to, this state trooper down there, up there, was right behind us. He happened to pull over, and he got us a tow truck, found us a hotel room. and we got towed to the hotel. And the next morning, I was Ubering to auto, parts stores to get a belt, and then it turned out I needed tools. I needed certain tools. I was changing. I got pictures of it. And I'll inject pictures of this throughout. In the hotel parking lot, I was trying to change the belt, still squealing real bad. That's when I figured out the alternator was locked up. Pulled it out, and I was in the hotel parking lot with all kinds of stuff, trying to break it loose, and it just finally just gave up the ghost. Unfortunately, had it been an 84 to 87, we could have found an alternator for it, but because this is a 1 year only alternator that was from the factory, no one had one. And meanwhile, we were supposed to both be back at work the following Monday or Tuesday. So we spent the Sunday scrambling to try to get a part, an alternator to get back on the road. And then we finally, Monday morning, were able to get a hold of U-Haul and everything, got a U-Haul trailer reserved, rented a Suburban from the little one runway airport that was nearby, went and picked those up, hooked this thing up on a trailer, and ended up just driving back. Made it home that night, probably about 2 o'clock in the morning, so really the Tuesday morning. Yeah, it was a doozy. That tested the relationship right there. But anyway, we got the work. But before we even left the area, I will say that area, and look at the name of that town. It was, I should have looked it up before. Small town, there was a college there, but I swear some of the friendliest people I'd ever met. And I'm, like Southern Charm ain't got nothing on these people. They were awesome, but the hotel staff felt bad for us because our car was sitting there in a no parking zone for 2 days essentially. But yeah, it was a doozy, and can't thank the people of that area enough. It was really awesome the way they treated us. So yeah, got the car home. I actually had to take a PT test the next day after we got home. Which are, in the military, our brigade CSM and brigade commander were there, and it's like, I didn't even care at that point. I was like, you're gonna get they got a pass out of me. But ever since, I did replace the alternator. I upgraded the alternator and some other things while I was in there. And Benelli. This is Benelli. She loves being outside. We've been just driving the crap out of it. It does have a few things wrong with it, small things that, it's whatever. It's an old car, but it's for what it looks like. I know it's filthy, but that's because we've been driving it, and that's what cars need to have done. Because had someone actually been driving this car, probably wouldn't have had the problems we had with it. So back to the HVAC. One of the things that, because it'd been sitting for so long, as where the blower fan was, it was complete mouse nest. And I mean, like, when I say mouse, I mean like those big suckers they have up north. Not like a mouse down south. It's like this. They were, one of them. Because I actually found it and scared it off. It actually rode to New Jersey with us, or rode back to Arkansas with us. So, anyway, this is a funny little story. So, if you want Fiero content, if you want to learn about Fieros, I could talk for days about these things, more than I could about fox bodies, and I hope maybe I can teach some people, get the younger generation. There's with some newer video stuff that there's a lot of good videos on YouTube, but maybe bring some newer things to light and keep these cars going, because these cars, you keep the right parts in them and stuff like that, the car will go forever. So there's no reason why these can't be valid for the next 20 years. As long as we have internal combustion engines. They even got an electric one now out there. So yeah, if you like this content, please like, share, and subscribe. It really does help the channel. I'm hoping to get this year will be much better than last year for me producing videos. So, as always, until next time, I'll be back.